Hey there everyone, this is Michael Dougal, your Greater Toronto Area real estate resource, updating you with exactly what's happening here in the Greater Toronto Area because we've seen some major talking points take place. The first being that the city of New York is actually seen as more affordable than Toronto is. And that's actually based upon this chart over here, where what they did was they accounted for, okay, how much would it cost for a down payment? What are the current rates for qualifying for a mortgage, and how much you would actually have to pay versus the median household income. So looking at the numbers here on the right hand side, that's actually the difference between the affordability and the median home price. So we can see just where Toronto ranks, and it's actually one of the most expensive cities in Canada and the United States, Vancouver being slightly more expensive. And what we've seen is that the Bank of Canada has actually made their announcement that they're holding the interest rate steady, although there's a lot of talk about a potential interest rate decrease taking place in June. So we're all expecting interest rates to decrease. The question is just how significant will the decrease be this year as well as next year? If there's been any change in the marketplace, what I've seen is that buyers are starting to become a bit more accustomed to the current rates, and they're buying more conservatively. They're looking at property that they would most likely be staying in long term, and this could be perhaps one of the reasons behind a strengthening market that's looking more of a seller's market than is a buyer's market. There's still limited inventory, although what we have seen is that the average price really has not changed too significantly. If you look at this chart over here, we can see just how much the average property has increased or decreased in value within the past year, and you can see the change is really quite minimal. Although what has changed within the past year is that we were initially in a buyer's market, then I think early 2024 looked more of a seller's market, where the advantage was for homeowners that would list their property for sale, be in a bidding war situation, which is always good. Although now getting into April, you can say the spring market is a little bit underwhelming. We haven't seen the price increase that we typically do during the springtime, because what usually happens here in the Greater Toronto Area anyway is that in the springtime, the average price comes up, and that's because of the fact that we have a lot more buyer demand. And the reason behind the buyer demand in the springtime is because, of course, buyers want to purchase in the spring, move it in the summertime, and then get their kids off to school in September. Another major change that's taken place in the Greater Toronto Area within the past few months is that the rental market is fairly down. In fact, vacancies are up. That's not just for residential property, but office space vacancies are up. And this is actually expected to be the trend for the rest of the year. And this is actually a major talking point because the rental market, as we know, has always been increasing, with the exception of during the pandemic. But one of the most surprising things that's taken place in the market is that there was this momentum getting into the month of March and into April, but that's really seemed to die down. And if there's any sub-market which can be seen as volatile, a bit unpredictable, I would say investors be wary, would be the condo market. And that's because there's a number of condos with a lot of active inventory. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of pre-construction projects go up, and there's a lot of high-rise buildings which are expected to be completed within the next couple of years, yet at the same time, the builders are actually decreasing their prices because of the lack of demand. So what that means for you as a purchaser is you may be able to benefit from some of the lower prices that are being offered by the builders on pre-construction units. So make sure that you team up with a good agent. We can look at the projects for you and find the right unit based on your floor plan preferences and location. And these are some of the cities which have experienced the most and least price growth within the past year. So we're specifically comparing March 2023 to March 2024. So Toronto West has experienced the most appreciation, almost by 5%, whereas Vaughan has actually experienced the least appreciation, in fact, depreciation by 2.79%, down to an average price of $1,303,000. Most of the cities and communities are fairly stable with the average price. I think it couldn't be a better time for individuals to upsize, downsize, move from one property to the next, because this is a somewhat predictable market in the sense of they're able to sell their property and know that they can buy something else without being in a frantic bidding war and having to worry about overpaying. And you see, when the average home is selling in over 30 days, for example, it's actually a lot more beneficial to home purchasers out there because they don't have to worry about removing a home inspection clause or a financing clause. And some individuals, provided they have a good agent, are able to buy a property which is conditional on selling their property, making sure they can easily make that transition. If you are considering buying or selling, make sure to call me. And if you're a real estate agent looking to learn about a great brokerage, I'm with eXp Realty. I couldn't be happier. Make sure to reach out to me to learn more. My number is 416-671-5218. I'm very active on Instagram and social media as well. So do subscribe if you did enjoy the content. Drop a like, and I look forward to seeing you next time.